and welcome to Close Up with the Hollywood Reporter. I'm Lacey Rose, and I'm joined by J.K. Simmons, Matthew Rhys, Jason Bateman, Darren Criss, Jeff Daniels, and Michael B. Jordan. Thanks all for joining us. So we're going to start with what I hope is a fun question. What is the most amusing or frustrating feedback you've received in trying out for a part?
I have one.
Go.
But nothing was actually said. I went to a casting. I went to a casting. I could hear the casting agent on the phone, and the assistant said, she's in the middle of a very important call for you to sit down and wait. The call went on and on and on, sitting there. The assistant kept apologizing. Then about 45 minutes, the assistant went, can you come into the office? And I could hear she was in the middle of a heated conversation. I walked to the doorway. I stand at the doorway. She's going, I know. She looks at me. She goes, the assistant just went, that was it.
Nice.
That's when I knew I wanted to be an actor.
Oh, God.
I feel like that's kind of indicative of a lot of stories that involve, I guess, less than positive feedback, which is not so much actually hearing what it is, but not hearing anything at all.
Yeah.
It's sort of the proverbial head shake where you go, so was there anything that could have done, and there's nothing, and you just don't, I just want anything.
Yeah, no,
it's very
we
nebulous.
just don't like you.
We just don't like you, your face,
I like the look of you.
Yeah.
It's kind of great now with the self-taping where an actor can just audition on their own computer with their own sort of webcam or their phone or whatever, and then basically shoot it till you love it, and then send that. And you don't have to go through all the nerves of the room, and hopefully you do it the way you practiced in the mirror at home. Like, all of that's taken away for the most part. I think the self-taping is what's going on.
So you're not ever actually rejected by another human being face to face.
Yeah,
You're rejected
preserving
by
yourself.
Just not
technology.
in person.
Yeah. Your agent relays a really nice message.
Yeah. Love you, but.
So you're going with a
You're not
different
tall
look.
enough.
Yeah,
exactly.
Classic.
You must have had one.
The thank you next I've had a lot. I remember, I don't know if it's the same, but I was doing a play off Broadway, and it was god-awful. And
Yeah, I
an
saw that
actress
one.
friend, thank you.
Not great.
And you even came.
I didn't stay.
Yeah,
You didn't stay.
I came to the first day.
You stayed for a while. And this actress friend of ours came in to the dressing room afterwards, and we're in a horrible, and she just put her head around the curtain and just said, oh, God. and just left. Just left. Oh, God.
Amazing.
You knew. She knew.
Yeah, you just know.
Well, do you know? I mean, it's an interesting question. Do you know when something isn't good?
I think you do.
You do?
I mean, usually.
Despite yourself, I think, or if you don't, it's made very clear to you very soon, especially in this day and age. I think it'll find its way to you whether you like it or not.
During shooting?
That's anyone's guess. I think more, maybe from the theater.
From the
it's
play,
easier.
yeah.
From the play, it's
you know
easy
yourself.
because you know it
see.
immediately. Yeah, but you don't know during.
Or if they interrupt you during your lines, your auditions, like, no, just like try to give you direction in the middle of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And you're feeling really
You're, like,
good about
going
yourself.
there.
And they're like, no, let's just try this. Or have you ever thought about it this way? And it's like, okay, cool, maybe my instinct wasn't correct.
Wasn't on
Quite
top
there?
of it.
It wasn't quite on point.
So, Michael, you had recently said, personally, I think you're defined by what you say no to. What does that mean to you, and how have those decisions defined you in your career?
How do I answer that without throwing those projects out? Good question.
One piece of crap. I think you were in it.
Let's hear all of them. You said
no to the Godfather.
I didn't say no to when I was in my 50s.
You can't do everything, and then obviously, you have agents that have their own agenda. Everybody's kind of like, trying to push you and navigate you towards saying or taking a job that you may not feel 100% comfortable with. So for me personally, it's just kind of like, not chasing the money. That may look good, okay, everything on paper that, may look good in the script or whatnot may not actually turn out that way when it hits the screen. So you just kind of have to go with your instinct and, stay true to your gut. So I try to listen to the inner voice as much as I can.
When did you guys sort of gain the confidence to be able to say no? Was there a point in your career where you felt comfortable being able to say, no, I don't need this one?
I think it's a luxury to be able to say no.
Yeah, it is, but it also, for me, there were two stages in it, and one of them was very early on when I was just from hunger, and I was like waiting tables half the time and doing theater in Buffalo or Cleveland or Atlanta or wherever, and I had an agent in New York, and I would go back and I would audition for a few things, and I'd get a job, and I'd go off and do a play, And I got an offer to do a show that I was not interested in doing, and It was the only offer I had, and I was talking to my agent about it, sitting there across the desk from him in the office, like in the olden days. And he said, well, what else are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know. Isn't that your job? I mean, he goes, look, it's a good company. It's a good, it might not be your favorite role, but, go. It's a job. Go. And I went, and I was miserable for, 8 weeks in Cleveland, if that's not redundant. And I thought,
I'm sorry, Bronny.
Honestly,
Good luck with that.
I would have been happier waiting tables at Joe Allen and waiting for something better to come along. So really, that was when I started realizing I can say no because, whether it serves my career or not, it's going to just serve my happiness.
That's a good point. I guess, like, for me, like, when I was younger, I started off, like, still living at home. I didn't have any real responsibilities. I didn't have a mortgage to worry about or, like, bills to pay. So you're kind of taking what's in front of you. And at that point, I've been blessed to, like, work consistently as a kid, even though there was tons of no's and I didn't get, a lot of the auditions that I went out for, the roles that I did get stuck around and kind of pushed me to that next level. But once you got older and a little bit more successful, the choices that you make really kind of define the way the industry looks at you and kind of how you move forward with your career. And those are the times that you got to be a little bit more, selective with the kind of projects.
And oftentimes the choices, or at least in my case, like it is pretty easy. I mean, one's a clear no way,
Yeah.
and then the other one is, well, I think I can not embarrass myself with that, or not be a pain in the ass on that set by trying to make it something that it clearly should be or wants to be.
So that's where you set the bar?
Yeah. Just don't want to be a pain in the ass and take the no-brainer
Not
down.
embarrassing yourself.
What's a no-brainer? What are the obvious no's? And I don't mean specific projects, but what are the things you say, not going to do that?
Musicals.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
Hey guys, come on now.
Just jokes.
Stuff that is the real low-hanging fruit that seems like a big payday or something that it's clearly just about it's like a sprinter project, right? They just want like a big splash, big opening, and they're not really too concerned about the merits of it, which would sort of lead to like multiple weeks of people going to go see it, The things I'm drawn to say yes to are less about the role, even the script as a whole. It's about the people who are doing it, because when I feel like I really want to work with somebody, it's usually pretty indicative of the quality of the projects, the people that you associate yourself with. So I don't care whether I've got 3 lines to say in it or 30. It's more about who's directing it, who are the other actors, what's the studio, and like where is it, is it something that I would want to go see as a viewer just because of its quality or its ambition.
That's a big go-to now. Who's in it?
Yeah.
Who else is in it? Who are you looking at? Oh, it's him? It's her? I'm in.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's that? I don't like
Yeah,
that.
it defines what the tone of it is, because you can read a script and there's 60 different ways you can do that script, and not all of them are bad, not all of them are good, but who they're going after says a lot about what their creative intention is for it,
See, I'm learning something here.
Yeah, this is
I get married to the script, a lot of the time, and which I
Also,
obviously
too,
we all, we all want to do.
You do stuff that you can fail at. That's where I'm at now. I mean, being right, you risk something.
Yeah, you want to take a chance.
Yeah,
have a challenge.
that's a lean in for me.
For you, though, earlier on, I remember you talking about your agents were saying, don't do Dumb and Dumber, don't get off the sort of Oscar train. What was that
We're
conversation?
begging you not to do this. Yeah.
Why? And why do you feel so confident
Because
that it's a
there were
yes?
3 agents on the phone the night before I was to fly the next morning to do wardrobe for Dumb and Dumber. 3 agents, 1 in New York, 2 in LA. The 2 in LA were going, we're going to stop you. You're not going to do this. You're a serious, important actor. We're trying to get you to the Oscars. You keep defeating us. Stop doing that. And this will be the end of your career. Frankly, Jim Carrey's a comedic genius. With all due respect, he's going to wipe you off the screen. Say no, and we'll take care of it. I said, you know what? I'm bored with the career. I want to change it up. I'm living in Michigan, right? I need to go from Dumb and Dumber to anything remotely serious. And for my world, in between there are all these jobs. Because if you can do this and you can do that. So I said, if this is a mistake, guys, it's mine.
But
I'm going.
He's such a good actor, and that is what makes him such a great comic. as are you. I mean, the roles you played in that movie, they were big swings, and you needed the acting chops to make the specificity of those characters real. I think that's why people say comedy's harder than drama, because you've got to be real at an even heightened and exaggerated place. And so that's probably, I don't know, if I were you with your talent, that's probably what I would have been saying to myself, and what these agents might not have been factoring in was like, no, I'm gonna go do this and I'm gonna be great at it because I've got the acting talent to be really just every bit as funny as Jim Carrey, which you obviously were.
Are you still with those agents?
One of them, yeah. One of them.
The one that's
survived, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? They had a good point. They're going, Jeff, this could, and nobody knew.
Well, it was risky. Yeah,
We thought 12-year-olds would go, but that was about it. And now you've got Tom Arnold's career, you know? All due respect to Tom.
Were there times in your career, were there specific projects where you sort of tuned everybody else out and said, I'm doing this, I really want this one?
I'm negotiating one right now. They're not being that helpful with. No, it's I don't know. I think I've got I'm very fortunate to have a great team, and they're all really good at what they do, and I love their advice, and that's what you pay them for, and you want to be deferential. But at the end of the day, you're the only one that can make the decision based on the things that you know what you're planning on doing, and you can't expect them to read your mind, and they know that, so you take their opinion and you give it the value that it deserves, but they can't see what your plans are, and inevitably they see what you did, and they don't say, got it, but inevitably they say, I understand why you did that. I didn't see it that way, and no way you could have explained that to me. So there's a place for their advice, and it's a valuable place, but it shouldn't, at least in my case, it doesn't dictate. Yeah.
But I feel like it's a gamble every single time. There's no surefire anything. I mean, there's an alternate dimension where that didn't go so well.
Yeah,
for Jeff, where that would have been the lesson you learned. Oh man, I shouldn't have taken that risk with the comedy thing. You took a risk and it paid off, so we all win. But if there's many different situations where they could have just blew up in your face. But there's no way to know. I mean, you just follow your gut.
And now that's what keeps me in the business, are the challenges of not repeating myself, you know? We didn't see you do Whiplash. We haven't seen you do that. All of a sudden, out of the blue, you kill in that. You just kill. But it easily could have been way over the top. Oh, turn the guy down, you know, but no.
Well, Miles Teller was saying that. But.
Was he? Was Miles? But that was an example of a great risk taken, and that worked out well. I love that stuff. I love that stuff.
I have a question. After, this is sort of similar to like easy no's, I think there is a certain, and a lot of these people go, I want to believe that this isn't the case, but there's a certain lack of imagination that happens sometimes around town where, given the last thing you did, if there's a bit of success, they go, okay, perfect. JK, we got this new role for you. It's this kind of manic, crazy sort of authority type, or similar to any of the roles you've just played. To me, those are the easy no's where I go, oh, come on, guys, you're smarter than that. You must know that life is bigger than whatever I just did.
Group.
It was unbelievable. I think right after Glee, there was several teenage roles that were very similar to Glee, which, hey, on the one hand, you go, okay, I guess you believed it. Great, did my job. But now, that's true. That's another universe I can live in. But now after Versace, it's like, oh, we got this weird kind of creepy killer type. I'm like, come on, guys, we're actors. We're acting, exactly. We just did that. So where's the?
But there's a branding that happens.
Exactly, it's inevitable.
And that's been around. Gable was a brand. Spencer
all those
Tracy
guys.
was
John
Jimmy
Wayne.
Stewart. When they figured out Jimmy Stewart's personality,
rode that wave.
That's the road.
But there's a distinction between that leading man and character actor, right? Where they're an audience, I think, has a predisposition to what to expect with you. Like a character actor, I think their knees are going to be bent a little bit deeper. Like I'll go wherever he wants to take me. Whereas a leading man, I think if a leading man went and did some incredibly arch character, audience might be a little bit like, hey, easy, pump it a little bit, you know, walk me into that kind of swing, you know, over the course of 2 or 3 movies before you, you know, go with the limp and the accent and the lazy eye. You you know.
Note to self, don't do.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
think it's more or less like the risk that the actor wants to take also. You know, like how risky do they want to take, what kind of chance do they want to take on the next role? Do they want to stay safe and do something that they've done before just for, you know, paychecks or whatever the hell it is?
And is your career in a position to do that?
Exactly.
Right. So with Farenheit, it was one where you said sort of initially you were not interested in the role, in the project. Why and what got you to yes?
I wasn't interested in playing an authoritative figure. You know, what was going on in the world with like police and like my community, you know what I'm saying, being a black man. I didn't want to play somebody who was an oppressor, you know what I'm saying? I just didn't want that in my head. I just something that I wasn't interested in doing, playing, you know, a firefighter that was, you know, going around, you know, burning books and, you know, just that kind of, that character for me just didn't sit right because I played, you know, Oscar Grant and I was playing characters that, you know, meant so much to my community at that time. After sitting down with the director, Ramin, and, you know, knowing Michael Shannon was gonna be a part of it, I think he's an incredible actor, and understanding the vision and the kind of themes and messages that he wanted to kind of, you know, to send through the movie. And at that time, I haven't read the book either.
You hadn't. Okay.
I haven't read the book, you know, I wasn't on my high school reading list. So I went and read through the book and kind of really understood what Bradbury was really trying to say. And I was like, okay.
Go on. Don't stop reading to me.
Sir.
Next page.
Did you think that one tiny crime would be wiped out by thousands of good deeds? That there would be no punishment?
Little knowledge is a dangerous thing. You read a few lines, ready to blow up the world, chop heads off, destroy authority. I know. I've been through it all.
Your mom has been somebody who's been very influential of what types of roles. You didn't want to keep dying for your mom?
And then also, like, you know, to Jason's point, wanting to be a leading man, you know, I didn't want the, you know, audiences and people to keep seeing me die in roles. You know, I wanted to survive through the act, you know, so I couldn't keep playing that role. And yeah, my mom, you know, being able to, for her, just every time I watched, you know, her watch me die on the screen, it tore me up as I got older. She would just weep, and she's a very emotional mom. I love her. But
Moms are.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to play a role so she could see me win. No?
No, I don't care about any of
Oh,
that.
man, maybe I'm a
I want to fuck with them. I really do. And then you died.
I'm right here, Mom. I'm right here, right next to you. It's okay. So that definitely had an influence on just wanting to, you know.
Are there tweaks that you made that in those sort of conversations with the director that you said, okay, here's what we're gonna have to do to make me feel comfortable playing this character in this world we're living in?
Well, I kind of wrapped my brain around it, and kind of once I saw the full scope of what the movie was supposed to be and what we're trying to say, I was kind of on board. Obviously, Guy Montag was not written for, you know, a 30-year-old black guy at the time, so there were certain things that was still very true to the book that we had to, you know, we had to make a little bit more authentic for myself. So we kind of crafted those up a little bit. And once we got that out the way, it was smooth sailing.
Darren, you played a famously homicidal real person. Did any part of that give you pause?
This particular person had very lasting effects on people who are still alive and the echoes of the tragedy and destruction that he wrought. You know, I couldn't help but think about, you know, the sons and daughters and cousins and husbands and wives of people that were affected by this guy that, I don't know, maybe they watched the first season of Crime Story and they liked the OJ show, and now they're like, oh God, like they're doing this about Uncle so-and-so. This is like, we have to revisit this 20 years later and make it pop cultural zeitgeist fodder. Like so that weighs on me a little bit. But once you take the sort of, I guess, that gravitas of real life tragedy out of it, I mean, as an actor and as a craftsman, so to speak, yeah, like those are the projects we wake up for in the morning.
I can't lose him. I can't. I just can't.
Hey, you've got it bad for him.
He's a house. He's a home. He's a yard and a family and picking kids up from school. He's a future. And up until now, I've only dated the past.
I remember reading how you wanted to find the sort of the endearing qualities, the good pieces to be able to play.
Yeah, I mean, but that's like, I mean, that's our job. Like, we're in the business of empathy. Like, it doesn't matter what my personal moral spectrum is. It's like you're inhabiting this person. You know, heroes don't necessarily know they're, well, maybe heroes, but crazy people don't know they're crazy. You know, we're all just, we're empathizing with these people regardless of them being real or not, or
Sure.
their
Jeff,
life,
obviously,
but,
you can play off that with Looming Tower. This, I mean, I don't know if you had the similar concerns. You're shooting this thing in New York. What are the sort of the conversations, the fears going in about how it's going to be received? There are plenty of families who may find this cathartic. They may find this terrifying.
I didn't get the vibe that the family or or extended family was interested. So out of respect, I didn't go there. I went to the FBI partners. I went to Ali Soufan himself. I went to 10 FBI guys sitting in a bar for 3 hours just listening about John, the good, the bad, the strength, till I had enough to go, all right, I know how to do this now. Okay, that's all I need, thanks. Our office knows more about Al-Qaeda than anybody. WFO will be playing catch-up, and they're a pawn of Alex Station. Schmidt just wants the case over there so he can direct it remotely.
John, calm down.
I really wish people would stop telling me to calm down. There are bombs going off around the world. That doesn't make me feel calm.
I want you to calm down because you're right.
I'm sorry?
You're right. You should have this case.
That kind of opens you up to kind of do what you think John was thinking and all of that.
But that to me is more important, is telling the narrative. I mean, and getting the essence of whatever the story is. Like, obviously, you don't look exactly like him and speak like him. It would be impossible to assume that.
Right.
So I think there's a
But you get the spirit, you get the strengths and weaknesses, and based on true events and things they said some of the time, and then you fill in the rest.
Yeah, with you, exactly.
And you're trying to honor the spirit of
the emotional truth.
And the guy you care about, with me, was Ali Soufan. Ali knew him and studied and was with him for years. How'd I do? And if you get a thumbs up, which I did, you're done. Good. That's the end of validation. With critics, everybody else, done.
Do you watch, like will you go to playback and watch, or even when it's all done, will you watch?
I didn't know this was an option because I was never high enough in the totem pole to where I would dare to ask. But it was actually offered to me by a focus puller, because I was very concerned with the technical aspect of a very long shot, and I was so terrified of having messed something up. I was like, do you mind if I watch it? I'm so sorry. I know we got to keep going. They're like, you're allowed to ask at any point. I was like, really? You shouldn't have told me that. So I did, once or twice, but I think it's just best not to know, man.
Do you watch your stuff? No. Do you watch your stuff?
I've only recently started to watch more because of the technicality of the boxing stuff. Or if it's
it's technical.
It's technical stuff. But then in watching the boxing stuff, I've actually started to pay attention to the performance. And I was like, okay, so then in other scenes, I'm like, okay, let me see if that
It's dangerous.
the way it's supposed to. So I think I'm slipping down that slope.
There's a disconnect. It's never satisfying as when between action and cut. That's the peak, right? And I think it has to do with theater. I remember I was doing something with somebody she was a major star at the time, and they had Video Village, and she'd go over between each take. And it was 3 minutes.
That's okay. That's different.
I'm just like that, and we weren't getting along anyway. And she came over and says, "Why don't you watch yourself? You could learn something." I said, "We don't."
Nice.
And I said, "We don't have dailies on Broadway."
There you go.
Boom.
You dropped shots fired.
Exactly.
It's right on the.
But I also, and maybe it's getting older, is that I don't want to know. I want to get to. That's why I asked you about. And I've directed and acted and written, so I know that kind of two hats while you're in front of the camera thing. And you can do it. Absolutely, you can do it. But it works best for me when I get to cut and I don't remember what I did.
Right.
The impulses that you're doing, the 5 words or less that you got from the director. Great, boom, boom. It's between action. That's what film acting is, right?
But I've learned so much about what I can get away with not doing based on watching stuff, even just down to size, I mean, well, if you can ask, the AC, well, you're going 75 or is that 32? Like if I'm acting nervous with my finger down here, well, that's not in the frame. I better, be pulling on my collar a little bit or scratch, stuff like that on the day. But then when you see it all coalesce with the final product and you get a sense of, oh, there could be music that comes in this later. It's just understanding how it all comes together and how you come across versus how you felt that day. was really helpful for me to try to constantly try to take everything down, 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 down.
See, I feel like I still don't know. Like I never learned, I never studied camera acting because I did theater for 20 years and nobody was offering to put a camera, put me on a camera. And the first time that I had an opportunity to do something significant on camera was, again, Tom Fontana.
Still here.
A guest spot, still here. A guest spot on Homicide, the great series with the great casting. And it was like a one-act play. We had a scene in the interrogation room that was like 12 pages with Andre Braugher and Kyle Sikora and myself. And once that aired, and this is back in the VCR days, I recorded it and I looked at every single beat and I dissected it over and over and over just to critique my own work because I was new at this and I was a theater actor and I didn't know, when I was true and when I was false. And I wore out that VCR tape, being self-critical, but also giving myself credit for moments that worked. And it's become, ever since then, I've gone almost polar opposite, not quite as far as Jeff has gone, but I've gotten to the point where I feel like there's a level of self-consciousness that I want to avoid. And I don't avoid my work. I watch it, sometimes, but not always. And I think it's best for me at this point not to obsess about the minutiae like that.
Initially was it illuminating that coming from the theater, you got to be able to hit the back row as well as the front row? Was it illuminating that it's all front row with the camera? In other words, if I try to hit the back row, I'm going to be overdoing it for camera acting.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of a given going in, and especially with, and I was so fortunate to have such wonderful writing and great scene partners, early on. I wasn't doing a guest spot on some schlocky something or on a soap opera or whatever. It was like doing really good material with really good actors, so it was just familiar, and I just, I knew enough instinctively to know, there is nobody any farther away that's listening to me.
And going from off-Broadway to film, there was no, I remember in the late 70s, early 80s, there was got to transition, got to bring it down, less is more. And all these Broadway actors that we were in waiting rooms with, they were big, they were filling the 1,500 seaters. We're filling 150 seats. So there was no transition. We were already
you're already tight.
Media,
With you guys, have you been surprised by the feedback that you get? Is it what you anticipated on your shows? I mean, you got the whole run of your show. Is it how you thought when you guys are in production versus once it lands on people's TV sets?
Yeah, it was a strange one because it was so heavily steeped in truth, but it's so fantastical. So the challenge felt was where to land it tonally, because you could read it as a farce. You go, this is ridiculous. And what the KGB in the United States in the early 80s were doing was farcical. So you're going, how do I land this in a credible, real place the audience follows you? And, because as much as I'd go to the writers and go, this is ridiculous, and they go, I know, but it happened. So you kind of go, what do I do then? They're like, we'll make it look real. And you go, okay. So it was always tonally, that was the greatest challenge of going, I was always going, oh my God, how'd you land this?
Things are changing back home, opening up. And it's not just politics, it's the young people, it's music, it's different. I mean, they're talking about opening a Pizza Hut in Moscow. You see the papers.
What, the Washington Post? All this talk, perestroika and glasnost, the Americans eat it up. They want us to be just like them. I don't want to be like them.
One of the best accolades, again, was in the third season. They were called illegals. They weren't even called spies. We had a real illegal who was a guy from East Germany who was trained 6 years in Moscow, adopted an American accent, spent time in Canada, brought into New York with the most ridiculous mandates from the KGB. And he just went, you got it right. And you go, oh, great. Sadly, that's only one man. That's not the audience.
Well,
you go,
that's enough.
I know, but you do. You just go, oh, great. So it's those moments you go, oh.
Yeah, you hang on to those.
Yes. I'll write that on the mirror.
And what about you? What's the preparation process? These two different guys. What is there one you're more comfortable in?
Well, yeah, I was actually drawn to this before I got the script, and as my agent has learned, I don't want to know anything else before I read the script. So I didn't realize that there was this. You're playing two guys. So I read the first 20 pages, and I'm falling in love with the way Justin is telling the story of this sad sack, lowly cog in this Fritz Lang awful, dystopia, and then I get to page 20 and I go, I mean, and I had this moment that I wished audiences could have, that of course they don't because you have to market the show.
This is a bad idea. Hi, Howard.
I thought it was like this domestic drama. Now it's become this spy thing and a sci-fi aspect of an alternate universe or parallel-ish universe. And I went back and immediately read the whole thing again from beginning to end from the point of view of the other version of Howard, the character. And that dichotomy was, doubly interesting. But I mean, I would have signed up just to play, that sad sack.
Much easier.
Yeah.
Much
Well,
less
it would have
work.
been a lot less work.
Much less work. What about for you, Jason? Obviously, you're wearing many hats in this one. Does that make it easier in some ways? I mean, certainly more time-consuming. But how does it change sort of your approach to the character and the story?
Knowing that that I'm doing more than just the acting on it, I'm sorry.
Did you say just the
acting? Yeah. Easy stuff.
He did say that.
Yeah.
Let me. We can roll that back, right?
Yeah, for sure.
By doing more than the acting in it allows me, I hope, to hit this tonal target that I wanted to when I read the first two episodes, which were the ones that were written. It was a directing hope for me. I wanted to direct a 600-page movie. I said, well, I'll do it if they'd let me direct all the episodes. Because I just kind of love this world. I wanted to be able to figure out what it looked like, what it sounded like, and all that stuff. And I knew that by playing the central character, I might, by having two hands on the wheel, one in front of the camera, one behind, it might increase my odds of hitting that little target.
Sir, there's no business opportunities that require that much cash, not legal ones.
Well, I agree to disagree. Where's my money?
As we told you, we can't cover that amount within 24 hours.
Okay. There's 2 federal agents here, which means you wouldn't take the chance that there was a kidnapping and not have my money. So if you don't produce it immediately, I'm gonna walk into that lobby and I'm gonna tell these people that I can't get my money out. And we'll see how long that takes to go viral, and you get a good old-fashioned run on this bank.
It changed the way in which I performed the character because I knew I would just be noting myself. I could be super subtle in this scene because I know I'll be in the editing room and I'll be able to kind of make sure I steal that look, which means I don't have to lean into that line, or I can cut that line and I'll play it with a little bit.
Nice.
Right.
Instead.
Must be nice.
The editing room. Okay. Yeah.
Geppetto and Pinocchio.
Yes.
So that was kind of, that's the excitement of that project.
So let me get this. You're in front of the camera. Editing.
I mean, but I think we all do that to a certain extent.
You guys, where he just looked away. I won't use that.
No, you guys are all talented enough to know what I'm talking about. Where you're sort of playing with shading something or juxtaposing a line with a look, and you just hope that either the director or the editor are going to kind of see that and either use that or make sure that the music doesn't overdo it, and now you look like you've overplayed the line. There's a lot of trust because there's so much more work downstream than the shooting.
Yeah.
And so that's the exciting part of this film.
Especially when you're hitting the tone that you know in your head what you're going for.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's
And
nice.
hopefully the editor
can pick up
gets
on that. Exactly.
That's
You can get through the
been
director
one of the
and be
biggest
like, this is it.
surprises of doing more film and TV stuff of late is the fact that, because in theater, it's kind of all in the actor's hands, for better or for worse. And even with with the American Crime Story, there were so many times where I was like, man, I look a lot better than I remember being. That was great. Or conversely, where I go, gosh, there's that music cue that is much more terrifying than I remember being. You're in a quiet room playing a scene in a very quiet moment, and all of a sudden it's good. And it's great. You're like, wow, this is really intense and scary. I don't remember it being that way. And there's so many things that are out of your control. I envy that ability to sort of curate the whole thing.
It's really fun.
But again, you trust the people that you're with, and I'm pleased as punch with my certain thing. I'm also not trying to throw anybody under the bus. It's like, you don't like my music cue? I'm like, it's great.
For the rest of you, what makes you uncomfortable as an actor? Are there lines you won't cross, things you won't do? Whether it's nudity, whatever it is.
I was going to say, I was on Oz, so
You
clearly I
literally
have no boundaries whatsoever.
But truly, was that ever uncomfortable? I mean, there was
of course it was.
lot of
Yeah, but that was, God bless Tom Fontana. I don't know why I'm looking up. He's still here.
He's still very much
He's in New York. He's doing great, everybody. The thing that he always bragged on about that show was that his actors were courageous, and we were just a bunch of young dumbasses that signed up. I mean, I was one of the older guys, Most of us had a theater background, and here we were on HBO and trying to pretend to be tough guys. Everybody except Chuck Zito, who was the only actual tough guy. And we just, as directed, we just went where he pointed us. And there was one time in 56 episodes where Tom actually called me ahead of time to say, I want to know if you're okay with it. And this was in like season 4, and I'm like, okay, well, you've had me rape men. You've had me murder men. You've had me tattoo men. You've had me crucify men.
But I want
You've
you to
had
sing.
somebody poop on my face.
Oh my God.
And he said, I said, what the hell do you want me to do? And he said, I want to do a musical episode.
Oh, really?
No way. No way. It was an episode where because one of the things that made him such a great boss was he let people go do their thing. When somebody got it, and Harold Perrineau had an opportunity to go do the Matrix movies. Harold was our Greek chorus. He was the man in the box, right? So he had to do some other version of the Greek chorus, and he decided we had Patti LuPone, we had Joel Grey, we had all these like Broadway, singers, and so he thought, all right, that's what we're going to do this year. Harold's going to be in Australia making money doing the big movie, and we're going to do some music.
Poop on the Face doesn't get a phone call, but the musical.
But will you sing? I was like, yeah, that'll be fun.
You obviously had a very memorable episode of Girls in the final season, I believe.
Yeah.
Was that an easy yes? What was that like on set? Did you have concerns?
Yeah, there's obviously, I had to, for those who don't know, I had to take my penis out and put it on Lena Dunham at the end of the episode. But not my penis.
When you say
penis.
on her.
Yeah, on her thigh. I just
Quite literally on.
That's when I knew it would be prosthetic.
Did you have a choice of preference of
No,
words?
literally when I did, literally, the props guy go...
Bigger on an arm.
I know. There's the producer director.
No.
There's the writer producer director. Yes.
We used our own penises.
Yes, back in the day. I know.
Wait, so
Such a luxury you get to choose.
The props guy just went, do you want to choose your penis? And I was like, and then you have that in a conversation where you go, if I choose a huge penis, you'll go, or a small. So I was like, yeah, I'll leave it in your capable hands. And he went, somewhere in the middle. I was like, bingo, thank you. And that was it. So, but yes, so that took away the element of greater concern. But the writing
Did you think it was real?
I knew it wasn't.
You knew it wasn't.
I knew it wasn't.
How'd you know?
Yeah.
I think I'd read it somewhere.
And moving on. I think, I think you're explicitly specifically speaking about things that personally you're uncomfortable with. But I think in a sort of bizarre way, those are tied to sort of like grander challenges. Hopefully if it's done tastefully. I mean, if we're specifically looking at nudity. But I think in general, anytime somebody goes, okay, I have something that might make you, I'm like, bring it.
Bring it up.
Like, what could possibly make you shaky? Like, I'm interested in that. With a grain of salt, obviously, but it's that it is compelling to know what compels other people. So I've never had that happen to me personally. If something's been approached, I've been approached with something that was.
All right, I want to.
There's like two categories, I think. There's like scary, and excited, scary.
Yeah, sure.
Like to me, dancing is scary, and then like playing other parts is exciting, scary,
Right,
challenging,
yeah.
exciting,
I'm with
scary.
you. I didn't even dance at my own wedding.
Brilliant.
Still an issue.
My respect has gone up.
Yeah.
Refused to get up?
Oh, I was up.
So obviously the world has changed, the Hollywood world and the world beyond in the last however many months, whether you define it as the Me Too era or the Time's Up era. How has your sort of perspective, your conversations, be it on set or off, changed in that time?
I'm just going to jump in there because I think the perception. I mean, Hollywood is obviously a self-obsessed
Yes.
place, and then the perception of this as a Hollywood issue.
It's not a Hollywood issue.
Is the main thing that I take issue with, and I don't think. I mean, obviously having a heightened awareness of this and people being discovered and called on the carpet and prosecuted, presumably. Is good for everybody involved, except for the culprits who are deserving. But it's way beyond Hollywood and anywhere where anyone is taking advantage of their position of power in order to usurp others is criminal, and that's why I'm glad this light is shining on that issue.
I mean, one of the things that came out of it is this sort of discussion about pay parity. Is that a conversation you guys will start to have with your producers, with your co-stars? Do you feel a responsibility to be having those conversations?
I think the industry has become much more concept-driven, premise-driven, IP-driven, as opposed to star-driven, is even more of a fertile ground for the no-brainer of parody.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's if they were ever saying, well, dudes bring in more audience than girls, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Always has been. And now those idiots have even less of a box to stand on.
I was going to say that I think anything that affects the cultural landscape at all, whether it's Hollywood or just in the world landscape, what's interesting is the way that it's shaping the narratives that we're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
The same way that when we were in wartime, the way how that shaped a lot of the narratives of films during that time in the early half of the 20th century, and how stories of KGB and American relationship. These were things that were very hot button issues and things that had a lot of popular interest in the 80s. I mean, in the same way, we're seeing this wonderful rise of female voices in film and television, and that's cool. I mean, that's the flip side of all of this. I mean, it's the silver lining, if you can call it that, of this happening to being centralized a lot in our industry, is that we're an industry that tells stories and actually has emotional weight. And if you're working in a corporate setup, hopefully there's infrastructural changes that are being made, but things that you don't see on the front lines in culture that can really affect the sort of next generation in an emotional way.
Sure.
So that's really cool. I think that's been fun to see, this kind of awakening and shift in the way we're prioritizing our storytelling, in the way that
Absolutely.
More things will happen that will shift what we're interested in and who gets the loudspeaker, and it's cool. I think it's going to the right people.
I think that makes sense. All right, we're going to shift back to preparation process. Jeff, Godless was your first Western. What was the preparation process like? How long does it take to learn to ride a horse like that?
I had to train for 3 months just because I had read the scripts and knew that I was galloping through rivers with one arm and all that. So I live in Michigan, so I got a rodeo guy who trains the county mounted police guys. So he was a real
Horse
guy.
cops.
Right.
Real
Yeah.
guy. And so he got me so I could gallop and all of that. And it's you get the rhythm and you're there and you gotta look cool and it's all rhythm. And then you get there and it's the Kentucky Derby.
Oh, man.
As the Wranglers say, he's gonna be energized.
Yeah.
That means
It's game day.
we do 30 horses up and over the first you're going up 15 feet and then 200 yards.
Man.
And they all think they're in the Kentucky Derby. He said the horses think they're in a race. So they're going. And we had one guy, first take, first day, first scene, first morning, flipped off the back. Bam, I got there, I hit the mark, I made it. And you can see the ambulance coming around from behind the cameras before they've said cut. He's already concussion protocol because he said, yeah, I can ride. He can't. And the second to last day of shooting, fell off the horse, broke my wrist.
Oh, no.
Still broke. Broke.
Oh,
Broke.
man.
We have one more day of shooting. So I'm on morphine. I'm on morphine.
That's
and
how
the
I act.
morphine wore off at 11 in the morning. 10-degree wind chill in the middle of New Mexico. And I'm sitting there, and the wrist is like a steak knife is in the back of it. And I also thought I tore my knee. So I was just standing on a mark, saying what I had to say on the last day of shooting with...
But you're recommending writing.
Yeah, exactly. You're really selling me on this.
Yeah.
It's a Western is something to have done.
Yeah.
Something to have done. Yeah. But the prep is, yeah. If it's, I knew I had to prep hard on that, and because I did, I only broke a wrist. Everybody flew off the horses. Even the Wranglers flew off. I mean, it happens. Just a matter of time.
Complete the sentence. I wish Hollywood would cast me as.
I feel like if I say it, I jinx it.
No, go on.
No.
I don't know. My goal is everything is a departure. Everything has to be
So
a departure.
what would be the thing now?
Honestly, get on a horse. Give me a sword and an armor, or put me in a hat and a shot. I don't know, something genre-y and totally off what I just did. I mean, just something totally wacky. That sounds great.
I think something different from whatever it is
Yeah.
that I just got done doing, which, I mean, especially those of us who have been around doing it for a while, most of us are here partly because we've been able to not have to repeat ourselves constantly and have been given the opportunities to play different kinds of characters.
Are there lanes that Hollywood seems to want you guys in?
Same but different. Same but different.
Yeah, same.
No, I'm just
unfortunately, there are, I think, different lanes that different people want to see you in.
Yeah.
So if there's enough different people that want to see you in the
Then you're
lane
good.
they want to see you in, then you're
Got multiple lanes.
yeah.
I'm really enjoying being in this one specific lane, which is the audience's proxy, like sort of just a normal guy that gets to inhabit the center of the story and is your lens through which you are observing and experiencing this odd plot or group of people or scary guy or funny guy. I like to be us. And maybe that's just an extension of my direction fascination right now. But I'm really enjoying that as opposed to playing a bunch of different characters. And maybe 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, that'll change. But I'm digging that right now. Having said that, as soon as you said that, I said I'd love to play a woman. It's fun. It would be really. I would really enjoy it, but like in a very real way. I mean, a Tootsie version of it would be pretty cool, where there's a wink to it, but then there's also the plane lands every once in a while, and there's some real sort of introspection there. Not to suggest that film needs to get redone, which it should never, but
it will, because that's the world we're living in now.
you just
what
planted
about
the
you?
seed.
What would you?
I was been sitting over here ever since you asked that question, sitting there like, I don't know what it is, but I love animation. So I think being able to voice a pretty dope animated character would be a lot of fun. So I think that is so tough just to bring through that emotion, to sit in in a studio and actually try to embody an animated character.
it's a trip because you're reliant on the animator down process to actually either match what you've done with your voice or go against it. It's this teamwork that you're completely hands off of that.
Yeah, with guys that you never
What about
meet.
you, Matthew? You obviously just come off a very long run.
Yeah, God, I don't know. I'm trying to get back on stage. That's another one.
Are you?
Yeah, very much so. But
What do you wish Hollywood would cast you as?
very specifically, for a long time, I've been trying to get this project made about the guy, Griffith Park, in LA, the guy who gave Griffith Park to
The observatory guy.
Yeah, to LA.
Griffith.
It was a Welsh guy called Griffith Jenkins Griffith, and his life reads like a script. So
And you can't get it made?
trying to get it made.
Okay.
So Hollywood, I'd like
Heard
to
it here first.
Hollywood, I'd like to get this one made.
Yeah.
I just wanted something. I was literally I have to mention this because just yesterday I was telling my friends what I was doing, and my friend was like, Jason Bateman,
He should play a woman.
But to answer the question of like what you want to be cast as, I feel like every project is a constant negotiation between what you see yourself as against what people see, what people think you're capable of, and what you want them to know you're capable of. And it's always this dance between how that launches off from the next project. And it's interesting that you are really, that you're aware of the way that you are perceived. And because yesterday he's like, oh, Jason Bateman, he is just like, we were talking about Jimmy Stewart. He was like, he's just the ultimate Jimmy Stewart straight man. He's like the 21st century straight man. And he does it so well and with such variance, but he's always in that lane. And I was thinking, like, I don't think he would appreciate it if that was said to him. The fact that you're aware of that and that's something that you like is very cool to me. I
love it. I love it because without it, there's a lot of stuff can't work. So I like just the responsibility of that.
Knowing who you are. Yeah. Okay, if you're looking at the landscape of the last year, film or TV, what was your favorite performance or one of your favorite performances, not yours?
Oh, you can't.
Did you want to say your own?
Well, I did. I get to work with my favorite actor on Counterpart.
You've used that before.
Oh, God. I don't watch anything.
I'll think of it in a cold sweat at night.
It could be multiple
I
things.
can think of the movie, but there were like a few different performances in the movie, which was 3 Billboards. I mean, Sam Rockwell, I guess it was just the first name out of my mouth.
Yeah, he took a big swing.
Brilliant. And just squared it up.
Sam's always been like...
He always does. He always hits the ball hard. For sure. Yeah, he's great.
Nobody doesn't like Sam Rockwell. No. Sam's like beloved by actors.
I mean, that's like Woody.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody in that movie, really. I mean, you could name 5, 6, 7, 8 actors from that film.
A project? It doesn't...
No.
It's so tough.
That's into the not the one.
I'm going back to New York in May, and I'm looking forward to seeing Denzel in
Iceman, yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing 3 Tall Women and seeing Glenda Jackson.
She's back,
and I heard Billy Crudup is just incredible in his one-man show.
I mean,
these are things you don't want to hear.
No, they aren't. That's not true.
We're looking forward to doing it.
That's not true. That's okay. That works too. If your co-stars were going to describe you in a few words, what would they say? These are not that hard. That's what they'd say?
They might.
Oh, God. Can't stand the horse.
Delightful, right? This is what I hear about you. Both of you.
Well, one a little more so, really.
Who knows? I'll give you the number.
Yeah, that's a question for them, I think.
Yeah. I hope it's favorable.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm still thinking of performances that I liked in this past year.
This is going very, very well.
We're not answering that one next.
Yeah, as soon as we're done.
We're on the table for these questions.
I know. It's always going to be in the car on the way home.
Now, Jason, when you're running a show, right, it starts at the top. You set the tone, right?
You can try.
But that's why I cringe about Newsroom was so demanding from a dialogue standpoint. I don't know about Americans, but we were loaded. Loaded.
Yeah.
There was no room for not knowing it.
In a good way. I mean, you've got modern day Shakespeare.
You will drown if you aren't completely off book for every single day, every single episode for 7 months. You're studying for the finals for 7 months. That's what you have to do. So at being number 1 on the call sheet, which there is a responsibility to that, you come in and you stand there at 6:30 in the morning with no sides going,
let's do this.
Who's with me?
Yeah.
Word.
And you find out real quickly on that show, because of the amount of dialogue, that's the only way to do it. And on day 2, all the sides were gone. And that was all those theater people, Sadowski and Pill, and all those people were just Sam. I mean, that's what we're going to do. Great. So that's a harder place to go to work because it's not going to be tolerated if you come in and you don't quite know it, especially in a scene with me, because I'll chew you up. I'll eat you alive.
Will you?
Yeah.
We just based on, not maliciously, but just out of pure talent.
You're not ready.
You're going to get
prepared.
exposed because
I'm going to bury you.
He knows what he's doing.
Yep. I'm going to bury you because this is my show, my set. This is how we do it here. I don't care what you do elsewhere. This is how we do it here. And it worked. We had a couple day players who came in, and the flop sweat started because didn't quite, and it's for their own benefit.
Who wants to go shoot a fucking movie?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go make a movie.
I just got
with
so
Jeff.
inspired just
Wait,
now.
what is this
I want
movie?
to go shoot something right
Let's do
now.
it.
Daniels, and it's 10 pages, and I sort of know it. And,
On a horse.
Yeah.
But you said, Michael, you said you've come and you've done the backstory, that you have notebooks and notebooks full of backstory.
Yeah, I write Mead notebooks. Like I have like a whole bunch of like diaries of all my characters from like the earliest memory to the page one of the script. And
What's in them?
Everything. What I ate. What's my favorite color? What was my experience? Does he have any siblings? What their relationship is like? You know, how was he treated at school? What, you know, just literally the most colorful imagination that you can have for each character that fits. You know, and then you actually, you know, you talk to the director, whatever his idea for the character is, and it's a kind of a collaboration, and you just kind of just make it up, you know, and just kind of gives you, you know, contextually what to go to if you ever get lost, you know? So like, you know, if you're in a specific scene and you're feeling, you know, lost and you're trying to find it, I'll just write on the back of sides like what I did that day, that morning before, or whatever the hell it
What
is.
this
just
character had
with that
done.
character, all in the character's perspective, POV. And that, I just found that for me, the easiest way to kind of stay locked on to who I was playing.
Which is awesome, first of all. You know, I mean, great. You know, taking your work seriously, in a feature, you know, where you're collaborating with your director and your writer. You know, that's a beautiful thing to be able to do. And when you have that, because I do not as, I mean, it's varied. You know, by project and by sort of whatever period in my life, but. When you're doing that in long form storytelling, you know, when you're doing, you know, broadcast news or Oz or you know, whatever it is, you create that backstory for yourself, and then in episode 34, you know, they write something and you go, oh shit. Okay. Didn't you get the backstory that I wrote in my Mead notebooks?
Yeah. That makes total sense. So I guess that's only been for characters that I've played in that, because
when you know beginning, middle, end,
without a doubt.
Sure. I think that makes sense. All right, we're ending with, if you could go back and tell your younger self, starting out in this industry, what would you say? What's the advice you would give? What would you?
Well, don't do it.
Well, yeah, start
Really?
off at 10. Sciences.
I wish that I hadn't bought the attitude that I should have been renting. There are peaks and there are valleys, and how you enter into that valley dictates how you get out of it, your ability to get out of it, as far as confidence and self-esteem and identity. And if that is wrapped up into your ability to be employed, then things could be challenging because you can't control that, and it's not a meritocracy, you know. So if you're really good at what you do, you can't count on being hired. So whatever confidence you have should be, you know, substantiated by something above and beyond, you know, getting hired.
Sure. What about you, Darren?
I have no idea. I mean, I'm still comparatively new at this. And I'm constantly learning. So I feel like I've made, this is a bit of a cliche answer, but I've made all the right mistakes, you know? So like I wouldn't want to disrupt the time continuum by
the flow of mistakes?
by rerouting it. I feel like all the things that I did got me to this roundtable with you guys. I mean, like you've all been a contributor to my career as an actor. So, so I feel okay.
His younger self is 11, so.
Take
a band off
It's all fake.
Jeff, do you have anything to tell your younger self?
I would tell him not to let the business kill the love for why you got into it.
And you haven't, though.
Oh, no. I talk to the college kids sometimes, and I reference Darren because he went to University of Michigan, which is near where I live.
Saw him there.
But you can't teach him about the rejection. You can't prepare him for that. And the end we're going to go with someone else. You know, the bitterness, the depression, all that stuff that comes because of the peaks and valleys of a career. Don't let it kill the love for between action and cut. Hang on to that, because you're going to need that. That's what I would tell him.
Yeah. All right, Michael, can you follow that?
No, I mean, that's deep.
You haven't screwed up hard enough yet. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
you
it.
really haven't. You should start more mistakes.
And
please.
when you do fail,
And when you
Michael,
do.
when you fail miserably,
Write to us.
Which is impending.
Yes.
you're still the good actor that you were before that came out. Hang on to that.
I will.
Hang on to that.
I know, I'm sorry, I'm going to butt in because I know my
Please.
glib response to what would I tell my younger self about would be to don't do it. But honestly, and this is, I'll give credit to the guy that I first heard say this, was Mark Ruffalo, who said, I would look my young, aspiring actor in the eyes and say, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and whether that means you're going to have this fabulous career and become Mark Ruffalo and become a lauded, actor who, or not,
can be fine.
or end up going
be
a
all
different
right.
direction, but it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And it was indeed okay for all of you. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
for
you.
doing
Thank
this.
you.
Appreciate it.
I am J.K. Simmons.
Hey, it's Michael B. Jordan.
Thank you for watching The Hollywood Reporter.
The Hollywood Reporter.
The Hollywood Reporter Roundtables.
On YouTube.